Countries with the lowest currency in Africa. Known for its beautiful infrastructure, Africa is the only continent in the world with the highest number of underdeveloped countries. This has been a result of bad government and low standards of living. These countries also have low currencies as a result of high inflation rates and dependence on several African countries' one currency. It is on this note that we are going to be looking at 15 countries with the lowest currencies. 15. Angolan Kwanza. Another country ravaged by internal conflict, Angola, one of Africa's major oil producers, is struggling to emerge from the debilitating after effects of a 27-year civil war. A member of OPEC, oil production and its supporting activities contribute about 50% of the GDP, more than 90% of the country's export, and over 70% of government revenue. $1 equals 576.98 Angolan Kwanza. Currency code AOA. 14. Malawian Kwacha. The erstwhile British protectorate of Nyasaland, Malawi, achieved independence in 1964. However, as with many other African countries, liberation from colonial forces has invariably been followed by domestic dissension. As of now, Malawi has become a transit country for human trafficking, with forced labor, prostitution, and child marriages being rampant in the landlocked Southeast African country. $1 equals 736.04 Malawian Kwacha. 13. Rwandan franc. The land of thousand hills, Rwanda, like its neighbor Burundi, has been utterly ravaged by interethnic conflict between Hutu and Tutsi, with Rwandans killing approximately 800,000 of their fellow citizens. The country is making considerable effort to rehabilitate its war-torn economy, coffee and tea being the principal export commodities. $1 equals 949.67 Rwandan franc. Currency code equals RWF. 12. Congolese franc. The DRC is the second largest country of the African continent, while its capital, Kinshasa, situated on the Congo River, is the largest city in Central Africa. A country rich in natural wealth, Congo has been at the center of what is called Africa's World War. The resultant fighting, disease, and malnutrition culminate in the loss of up to 6 million lives, spawning boundless civilian suffering and economic penury. $1 equals 1897.36 Congolese franc. Currency code equals CDF. 11. Burundian franc. Interethnic violence between the Hutu majority and the Tutsi minority has plunged this historic kingdom into anarchy, bringing life to the Rundic proverb, "Do not call for lightning to strike down your enemies, for it also may strike down your friends." A resource-poor, landlocked country with an underdeveloped mining sector, agriculture contributes to over 40% of the GDP, employing more than 90% of the population. $1 equals 1,926.56 Burundian franc. Currency code BIF. 10. Sierra Leonean Leone. Sierra Leone suffers from high inflation due to civil war, economic struggles, and recently Ebola and COVID-19 pandemic. Sierra Leone is infamous in transatlantic slave trade history as the departure point for thousands of West African captives. Freetown, one of the world's largest natural harbors, was founded as a home for repatriated former slaves in 1787. Originally christened Sierra Leone after the Lion Mountains surrounding the harbor, the country's troubled past continues to haunt its future. Although rich in natural resources such as diamonds, gold, bauxite, and rutile, titanium dioxide, the trade in illicit gems, also known as blood diamonds, has perpetuated the brutal civil war, which severely crippled its economy. $1 is equivalent to 9,925 leones. 9. Guinean franc. Guinea, formerly French Guinea, achieved independence in 1958. It has, ever since, been plagued by political strife with successive governments that have failed to address the country's crumbling economy. A poor country of approximately 12.9 million people in 2016, ironically, It possesses the world's largest reserves of bauxite and largest untapped high-grade iron ore reserves, as well as gold and diamonds. In addition, Guinea has fertile soil and ample rainfall, and is the source of several West African rivers, including the Senegal, Niger, and Gambia, with great potential for the export of hydroelectric power. Persistent political instability, the reappearance of the Ebola virus epidemic, low international commodity prices, and an enduring legacy of corruption, inefficiency, and lack of government transparency continue to bedevil economic development. $1 is equivalent to 9,798.14. Guinea is one of the African countries with the most inflated currencies. The country's currency is weak due to the high inflation rate, progressing poverty, and devalued currency. Guinea should have been one of the countries with the most valuable currencies, considering the country's available natural resources. They include gold, diamonds, and aluminum. Guinea has the world's largest bauxite reserves and is the biggest exporter of ore. 8. Malagasy Aerie. Madagascar is the fourth largest island in the world after Greenland, New Guinea, and Borneo. It is predominantly populated by the Malagasy peoples, a complex of about 20 ethnic groups, who are primarily related not to African peoples but rather to those of Indonesia. Formerly a French colony, Madagascar, like many other African countries, has been afflicted by prolonged periods of political instability, violent coups, unrest, disputed elections, international condemnation, and economic sanctions. Notwithstanding an abundance of natural resources and a tourism industry famed for its unique wildlife, the country remains one of the world's poorest and is heavily dependent on foreign aid. $1 is equivalent to 3,940.68. The currency keeps depreciating against the dollar due to the continuous high inflation rate. 7. Ugandan shilling. Even though Uganda is blessed with some natural resources like fertile land, regular rainfall, and mineral deposits, its leaders have done little to lift the country out of the poverty zone. $1 in Uganda is worth 3,670.85 Ugandan shillings at the official rate. It cost more at the parallel market, making Ugandan currency ranks number 3 among currencies with less value than the US dollars. It's one of the lowest currencies on the continent. $1 is equivalent to 3,732.68. In August, the Bank of Uganda, the country's central bank, indicated that the currency depreciated by 3% against the US dollar in the first 5 months of 2020 due to increased outflows of investment following the COVID-19 pandemic. 6. Tanzanian shilling. The birthplace of the majestic Kilimanjaro and prolific Serengeti, the United Republic of Tanzania was formed in 1964 by merging former British strongholds Tanganyika and Zanzibar. Dar al Salam, Arabic for abode of peace, is the largest city, industrial center, major port, and seat of government. Although blessed with relative domestic stability, economic prosperity continues to evade Tanzanians, with many of its people living below the World Bank poverty line. This currency is handled by the Central Bank of Tanzania. $1 equals 23.1803 Tanzanian shilling. Currency code equals TZS. 5. The West African franc. The currency is issued by the Central Bank of West African states, located in Dakar, Senegal, for the members of the UEMOA, that is Benin, Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Senegal, and Togo. The franc is nominally subdivided into 100 centimes, but no coins or banknotes denominated in centimes have ever been issued. The production of CFA franc notes and coins has been carried out at Chamalières by the Bank of France since its creation in 1945. The Central African CFA franc is of equal value to the West African CFA franc and is in circulation in several Central African states. They are both commonly referred to as the CFA franc. In December 2019, it was announced that the West African CFA franc would be reformed, which will include renaming it the ECO and reducing France's role in the currency, the broader economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, of which the members of UEMOA are also members, plans to introduce its own common currency for its member states by 2027, which they have also formally adopted the name of ECO for. One United States dollar equals 617.50 West African CFA franc. 4. South Sudanese pound. The South Sudanese pound is the currency of the Republic of South Sudan. It is subdivided into 100 piasters. It was approved by the Southern Sudan Legislative Assembly before secession on 9 July 2011 from Sudan. Banner in Juba announcing the conversion from the Sudanese pound, SDG, to the new currency, the South Sudanese pound, SSP. It was introduced on 18 July 2011 and replaced the Sudanese pound at par. On 1 September 2011, the Sudanese pound ceased to be legal tender in South Sudan. As of February 2023, 1 USD equals 130.26 SSP. At the time of the release of the South Sudanese pound in 2011, the exchange rate was SSP 2.75 for $1. 3. The Sudanese pound. The Sudanese pound is the currency of the Republic of Sudan and is issued by the Central Bank of Sudan. Both Arabic and English names for the denominations appear on the country's banknotes and coins. After the secession of its southern regions, Sudan issued new banknotes on July 24, 2011, featuring a redrawn map of the country. The pound fell for the first time since 1997 after the United States imposed economic sanctions on Sudan. The Sudanese pound continued its decline to an unprecedented number, falling to 53 liters against the dollar. This situation, which drained all economic measures, led to heavy losses and the external repercussions of Sudan as a whole, in the light of the government cut, interrupted by some of the failed actions announced by the Central Bank of Sudan, a severe shortage of liquidity. The Sudanese pound fell against the US dollar after the Central Bank of Sudan announced the lifting of the cash reserve to counter inflation. Since the secession of South Sudan in 2011, Sudan has suffered from a scarcity of foreign exchange for the loss of 3/4 of its oil resources and 80% of its foreign exchange resources. As of February 2023, 1 USD equals 130.26 SSP. 2. The Nigerian Naira. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, is the sole issuer of legal tender money throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It controls the volume of money supply in the economy to ensure monetary and price stability. The Currency Operations Department of the CBN is in charge of currency management through the design, procurement, distribution and supply, processing, reissue, and disposal or disintegration of banknotes and coins. A major cash crunch occurred in February 2023 when the Nigerian government used a currency note changeover, delivering too few of the new notes into circulation to attempt to force citizens to use a newly created government-sponsored central bank digital currency. This led to extensive street protests. As of now, 1 USD equals 460.88 Nigerian Naira. 1. The Zimbabwean dollar. The official currency of Zimbabwe is the Zimbabwe dollar, ZWL, although it is not an internationally recognized currency. This currency is in the form of bond notes and RTGS, real-time gross settlement. However, the economy of the country is pegged in US dollars, so essentially the US dollar is the dominant currency. If you are a visitor to Zimbabwe, you want to think in US dollars only. The money situation in Zimbabwe is complicated, to say the least. Years of mismanagement of the economy necessitated more austerity measures to be implemented in 2019 to once again stabilize the economy. The parallel rate on the day of this video is around 1,050 Zimbabwean dollars, is equal to 1 US dollar. Conclusion: Kuwaiti dinar is the legal tender of the state of Kuwait, an oil-rich nation in the Middle East that is surrounded by Iraq and Saudi Arabia. It has the highest currency in the world. The Kuwaiti dinar was introduced in 1960, the same year that the Kuwaiti Currency Board was created. When the state of Kuwait became independent in 1961, ceasing to be a British protectorate, the dinar replaced the Gulf rupee, which was the official currency used in Kuwait and other British protectorates located in the Arabian Peninsula. Kuwait became a British protectorate in 1899 when the Ottoman Empire threatened its sovereignty. The British East India Company previously established a presence in Kuwait more than 100 years earlier, recognizing its strategic position relative to major shipping lanes connecting key ports in Africa, India, and along the Red Sea. Kuwait's economy boomed in the years following World War II as it became one of the world's premier suppliers of oil. Although it aims to diversify its economy beyond the oil industry, oil still provides 80% of the country's tax revenues and accounts for 1/3 of its GDP. If African countries can engage in international trade, there could be a change in currency rate. Please leave your comments below and also bring in your contributions on how African countries can advance. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please subscribe and turn on notifications for more